What's up guys, it's Dakota with the Power of Stories, and today I want to get off the technical discussions on storytelling topics and just go full out nerd with you. What's not to love about geeks talking about the things they enjoy? And while this will be one geek jabbering excitedly at a camera, hopefully it's somewhat informative and entertaining for you, and lets you think about something fun for a change, instead of all the craziness going on around us in the world. So with that being said, let's jump right in. We all can identify with that feeling we get when we experience a character in a story that just makes something stir inside of us. Sometimes it's revulsion, sometimes it's desire, sometimes it's affection, sometimes it's fury, and sometimes it's extreme excitement. That character is so cool! Well, I'm going to break down my top 10 coolest characters ever created in fiction, in my opinion and based on my experiences. Obviously, if there's a story I haven't read, seen, played, etc., I can't put a character like that into this list based solely on the recommendations of others. So if your coolest character isn't here, don't freak out, I probably haven't experienced that story yet. Or I have and they just didn't quite make this list of ultra badass characters. So a list like this is ridiculously hard to do. Choose 10 characters from all of fiction, all story mediums and genres? How am I supposed to do that? Well, the answer is agonizingly. And while I thought about doing an honorable mention section to cover the huge number of cool characters that I just almost couldn't bear to leave out, I decided no, tough love, this is a top 10 list, so only the top 10 are getting a slot in this video. But wow, is it tough to leave out a bunch of the characters that just barely missed the top 10 boat. Anyway, let's begin the drum roll because we're about to get the number 10 coolest, most cool, character of all time. That's right, our first entry is none other than
Bond. James Bond.
The poster boy for cool since 1953. Bond started out as a character in Ian Fleming's spy novel, Casino Royale, where he was already really cool. But his popularity as the coolest Brit to ever save the world from tyranny... the second coolest Brit to ever save the world from tyranny... took off after the novels began their adaptation into what is now the longest running and most popular spy thriller series of all time. Sean Connery solidified the suave, hard-drinking playboy in the public consciousness in Dr. No, but many actors have taken the role since, representing Bond's badassery with varying levels of success. My personal favorite Bonds are Sean Connery, Daniel Craig, and Pierce Brosnan. Fight me. With good looks, awesome gadgets, overwhelming charm, and a comprehensive understanding of how to wear a suit, Bond is a shoo-in for any list of coolest characters. And maybe it's not the best thing that Ian Fleming and MGM taught the world to idolize a violent, womanizing alcoholic, but if everyone was being honest with themselves, they'd admit that they wish they could seduce all the beautiful women, actually hold their liquor, and be smooth AF, while saving the world from communists, terrorists, and sharkmen. James Bond is number 10. Number 9 is from a personal favorite story of mine. In fact, it's my all-time favorite classic novel, The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. The protagonist for this masterpiece, set during early 17th century France, is a hot-headed young man with a chip on his shoulder. D'Artagnan has something to prove to the world, as well as an impetuous attitude, unending ambition, and some sweet, sweet sword skills that ultimately get him noticed by several of the king's elite musketeers. Unfortunately, he gets noticed by all three of his eventual best mates by getting into duels with all of them. Learn to use your words, kids. Violence is not always the answer. Fortunately, duels do make for an exciting story, and the hype only gets higher from there. D'Artagnan and his equally cool brothers-in-arms go on adventure after adventure, wooing women, fighting good guys and bad guys alike, and facing off against Milady de Winter, one of the sexiest and most horrible women in classic fiction. What an exquisitely well-written femme fatale. Anyway, D'Artagnan is awesome for a lot of reasons, not least of which are his flashy sword skills. However, what makes him so relatable, and yet cooler than I could ever hope to be, is that he represents what I might call the ultimate masculine coming-of-age tale. His journey isn't perfect in any sense of the word, and it certainly isn't devoid of mistakes, setbacks, failures, and heartbreak. But it's what guys dream about when they're boys, and wish they could strive for when they're men. Going out into the world, putting yourself to the ultimate test, having grand adventures and looking back with the confidence, strength, and wisdom accrued from it all. Now, I will say that I am recommending the book character here. There have been many adaptations over the years, and most of them are complete garbage. No adaptation has ever held a candle to the novel itself. So do yourself a favor, read The Three Musketeers, and experience the number 9 that is D'Artagnan, Musketeer of King Louis XIII.
All for one! And all for all!
Well. I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
Why, Johnny Ringo. You look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Now here's the deal. I'm cheating a bit with this one, since Doc Holliday was actually a real person in history and not an original fictional character. However, this is about the character from the 1993 Western Tombstone, depicting a dramatized version of the most famous gunfight in the world, the shootout at the OK Corral. And though Doc Holliday was a historic figure and a decidedly unique one at that, I think the character brought to life by Val Kilmer is enough of an interpretation to count as a fictional character, just as you might say the same of Mel Gibson's William Wallace from Braveheart. Now, Doc Holliday is cool in that devil-may-care, damn the consequences kind of way. He's got tuberculosis, a terminal and degenerative disease of the lungs in the late 1800s, and how he handles that reality informs much of who he is as a character in the story. He's also presented as an anti-hero in Tombstone, which is pretty historically accurate, since the real Holliday was no saint. His antics and disregard for almost anything besides the edgy and the dangerous get both himself and the Earp brothers in many entirely avoidable pickles. But that's part of his charm and appeal. Doc has no regard for anything but loyalty to his friends and the spicier things in life. And even if I disregard the allure of his unrestrained taste for vice, I'm kind of a sucker for characters typified by loyalty.
Loyalty trumps all!
Plus, the dude has some of the most badass one-liners, defeated only narrowly by Sarge.
I hope you brought your wallet, because the rent in hell gets paid in advance!
You're so drunk you can't hit nothing. In fact, you're probably seeing double.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
For freewheeling characters, Doc is the ideal, the pinnacle, a character with really only a few great wishes for life, one of which is to go out with a bang.
I got you now, you son of a bitch.
You're a daisy if you do.
What a terrifying and cool way to confront a debilitating terminal illness. Gunslinger Doc Holliday takes the devil-may-care slot on this list of cool, coming in at number 8.
Don't any of you have the guts to play for blood?
I'm your huckleberry. That's just my game.
You wanted me. Here I am.
I mean, do I even have to explain this one? Everyone knows who Batman is and why he's freaking cool. And while his awesome character is handled better in some instances than others, the Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, continues to this day to be one of the greatest icons in the last century of storytelling. And he certainly is the most compelling character in the now mainstream and wildly popular superhero genre. Sure, Batman has all kinds of flaws, but he deals with them in what could be the most badass way you can possibly do so. Whether that method is the best way to retain your mental and emotional health is another question altogether.
Where are they?
This is not a list of best coping mechanisms. It's a list of coolest characters. I'll also mention that while Batman is crazy cool, he's helped by having a stellar cast of characters around him and an all-star cast of villains to oppose him. I mean, Aranya Highwind from Final Fantasy XV is a cool character, but you won't ever see anyone put her in a list like this. There's just not much of substance around her in the story. That's not the case with Batman. Gotham is a compelling place, with compelling villains and fleshed out motivations, and most of the time, just good storytelling. So Bruce Wayne, like most characters that come to mind immediately as cool, has a lot of quality stuff going on around him as well. An interesting sandbox in which to play, if you will. Besides, dark, brooding vigilantes have a cool factor just built right into their characters. Like with V or Punisher. It just kind of comes with the territory. Batman is cool because he's flawed, driven, and scary. Imagine if you ran into a psycho dressed like a bat in a dark alley at night. Superman can symbolize hope all he wants, because that hope's got nothing on straight terror. Batman is number 7.
Batman,
Ace.
did you like playing with my new Royal Flush gang?
Can't say that I did.
Yeah, they aren't any fun at all. I gave them their powers and they still hardly ever play with me.
Can't imagine why.
When I was little, Cadmus used to make me play all kinds of games, but they weren't any fun either. They'd strap me into their machines and poke wires into my brain. Ace, can you move this object with your mind? Yeah, I can move it. They weren't really games, you know. They were training me, turning me into a weapon for justice, they said. They got their weapon. I got cheated out of my childhood.
I know what that's like.
You do, don't you? You don't have to answer. I read your mind. That's how I knew you weren't going to use Mrs. Waller's weapon on me.
No, I wasn't.
You were going to try and talk me into fixing what I've changed. Before I die.
Yes.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
I'll admit that ever since I was a very young boy and read this copy of the Tales of King Arthur, I've been a huge fanboy of the Arthurian legends, and I've gone on to read just about every work in the saga's centuries-long evolution to the present day. From Geoffrey of Monmouth's histories to the French Romantic period and La Morte d'Arthur, to modern-day classics like T.H. White's The Once and Future King, I've absolutely devoured stories about King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. So many of the knights and other characters are cool in their own particular way in these stories. You've got Gawain with his reckless strength and undying loyalty, Morgan Le Fay and her dark quest for vengeance against fate, Galahad, the perfect knight, with his complete dedication to chivalry and righteousness, Mordred and his relatable but twisted search for acceptance and downfall into hatred. Of course, Arthur himself, the legendary Once and Future King. I could go on and on. Percival, Merlin, Tristram, Bedivere, and Kay. These stories are chock full of the coolest characters you could ever come across. But none ever captured my imagination and fascination like Lancelot du Lac, Sir Lancelot of the Lake, King Arthur's favorite knight and best friend. Lancelot actually isn't even in the original King Arthur tales, and only makes his appearance in Crescent de Troyes, The Knight in the Cart. He became wildly popular with the audience of the day, and soon he'd become one of the legend's most prominent characters, shaping the very context and course of the stories around him. Nowadays, without going back to the earliest tales, you can't find renditions of the Arthur legends that don't figure Lancelot in a leading role, and with good reason. He's such a complex, strong, but ultimately flawed character, and for me, he kind of represents the realistic vision I have of myself as a heroic figure. Sure, I'd like to believe that if I managed to become a great and powerful man, that I'd be perfectly just and fair and stand for everything good. But if I'm being honest with myself, if I ever managed to make myself into a great figure, into one of my ideals, I'd be more like Lancelot. Forever trying to do the right thing and be the perfect hero, but failing to do so because of the flaws I know I have and that I'm ever fighting. And I think that's why a lot of people have loved his character throughout the centuries. He's the ideal, if the ideal was realistic. There may be some people who could always do the right thing if given great abilities, but many of us would be Lancelots, not Galahads, if we had great power. Anyway, my point is that Lancelot is my relatable cool character. Because if I was, actually cool, I'd be a very flawed cool. Go check out any of the Arthurian legends out there if you're interested in Lancelot or any of these other awesome characters. I recommend starting with this one here for an exciting, entertaining, but brief intro into the legends. It's a great overall summary, only takes like 30 minutes to read, and has some awesome drawings. I'd say the only massive thing it's missing is the quest for the Holy Grail. Of course, you could also just kill any semblance of cool about these characters by watching Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but in exchange, you'll get to laugh your butt off.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've had worse.
Howard Pyle's Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table is also a great place to first experience the Arthurian legends, but I'll just post a list of recommended stuff in the description below. Yeah, go experience Lancelot wrecking some folks. You won't regret it. Lancelot comes in at number 6 as the relatable cool character. For those of you who watch my stuff regularly, you know that I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson fan. He's my all-time favorite author, and Mistborn, The Final Empire, is the story that introduced me to his work. And the first major character you meet in Mistborn is Kelsier. What an awesome way to enter the Cosmere and discover the stories of Brandon Sanderson. Kelsier is one of those Avenger-type characters with some vengeance on his mind. He's got a bone to pick, and he ain't picking it nicely. But unlike many of the revenge-seeking anti-heroes out there, Kelsier isn't the dark, brooding type. In fact, he often has a very fun, wisecracking personality, and a bit of a soft side, setting him apart from the veritable sea of tortured characters on the quest for
vengeance.
And Kelsier is just one of the examples of this book bucking the established tropes. It's really a heist story, put inside an apocalyptic fantasy setting, which is pretty unique in itself. But I won't spoil any of the plot, because if you haven't read it yet, you really need to. Kelsier himself has just the right mixture of fun, charm, flaws, and veiled darkness in his personality to make him a top-tier cool character. By the way, if you're ever creating a cool character for a story, take a page out of Sanderson's playbook. Give them a cool title they earned by doing something infamous or legendary. For example, Kelsier is known to the people of Scadrial, the world of Mistborn, as the Survivor of Hathsin, or just the Survivor. For, who could believe it, surviving and escaping from the pits of Hathsin, a terrible prison no one else has ever seen the inside of and lived to tell the tale. Infamous titles add instant cool factor to your characters, and if the legend is built well, the notoriety the character enjoys in your world will naturally seep out to the audience. This is the strategy that Sanderson used to great effect, and after combining it with a remarkable magic system and one of the most epic showdowns ever written in fiction, the result is that Kelsier easily secures his place as one of the coolest characters ever created. My number 5 is The Survivor.
I didn't tell anyone, I swear!
That was smart, Doc. Now if Garrus comes around, you stay smart. Keep your mouth shut or we'll... Who are you? Let her go!
Ah!
Guys, it's time for the King of Bro to make his appearance. I'd introduce him myself, but really, he does it better than anyone else ever could.
I'm Garrus Vakarian, codename Archangel. All-round Turian bad boy and dispenser of justice in an unjust galaxy. Also, I kill Reapers on the side, and you are.
The only way I know how to describe Garrus is that he's the broiest bro who ever broed. Some people might think it's pathetic that one of my best friends is a fictional character, but they're actually just jealous, because they wish they could have a bro like this guy. In a game trilogy that is stuffed with awesome characters, he manages to stand out with just the right mixture of grim realism, idealistic hope, and unwavering loyalty. Garrus is a police officer on the Citadel when you first meet him in the original Mass Effect game, and he quickly becomes a staple character in your party. For 3 games, I went almost nowhere without my boy, and unlike some other characters that shall remain unnamed, you never have to worry about him having your back. Garrus is always there for you, through thick and thin. And who doesn't wish they had a friend like that? I really don't have a better way to sell this character or this game trilogy than that, so if you decide to sink your teeth into this third-person shooter/RPG, you are in for a wild and immersive ride. And you'll end up with some of the best of friends you could ever ask for. Not least of whom is the ultimate bro. Archangel Garrus Vakarian comes in at number 4.
So, if our business is done, I'll be going?
I don't think so. You're a criminal now, Harkin.
So what? You're just gonna kill me? That's not your style, Garrus.
Kill you? No. But I don't mind slowing you down a little. Maybe give Cece the blood trail a follow.
Bastard! What'd I ever do to you?
Sidonis better be there. or I'm coming back to finish the job.
Guys, I'm a sucker for surrogate father figures that step in when struggling men need them in their lives. And the king of all father figures is none other than the badass Ronin himself, Orin, disgraced Yevon monk from Final Fantasy X. The best Final Fantasy of all time. Orin is just what our juvenile and annoying protagonist, Tidus, needs in his character arc, as he struggles to grow from a boy into a man through the quagmire of identity crisis, coming of age, and father issues that entails. Orin pushes Tidus to take responsibility, to become dependable, to reject living selfishly, and, of course, think for himself and seize the future he wishes to see with his own hands.
Now is the time to shape your stories. Your fate is in your hands.
Oh, and he's a studly, sword-slinging samurai that eats fiends for breakfast. So there's that. And he's got a killer dry wit. When it comes to my funnies, I'm a sucker for dry humor. The more dehydrated, the better.
You're no fun to ride with at all.
What?
I'll take Kamari over you any day.
Also, spoiler, the dude is so cool that when death came knocking, Orin was all like, nah, I'm gonna stick around for a while. I got some stuff to do, not least of which is help this boy become a man. Thanks, but no thanks. And then just shuts the door in Death's face. If that's not a supremely cool power move, I really don't know what is. Also, the glasses. I dare any of y'all to pull off the sweet, sweet Harry Potter shades like cool samurai Orin. Can't do it, can you? That's right. I didn't think so. So if you need a father figure in your life, go check out Orin from Final Fantasy X. You'll be glad you did. Orin, the dad you always wished you had, coming in at number 3. Speaking of father figures, coming in at number 2, our runner-up, coolest character of all time, is the Dark Father himself. But Darth Vader is not on this list on account of his father skills. He tends to deal out discipline to the kids a bit too enthusiastically. No, Darth Vader is cool just because he is the definitive example of how the bad guys in a story, the villains, can be so compelling that they bump up the overall story quality by themselves. I mean, the dude's an evil cyborg space wizard. And not just like a space wizard, he's the space wizard. Recognized around the world by pretty much everyone not living in a cave without electricity, whether they've seen the films or not. And it can be argued that the original Star Wars trilogy is the cultural landmark that it is, in large part because of this iconic character. Dark, imposing, terrifyingly effective, and uncompromising when it comes to failure, Vader represents something of the ultimate benchmark for villains in the popular consciousness. Always admired, often copied, but never successfully duplicated, Vader is the symbol for cool when it comes to bad guys. And, I mean, on top of everything else, I think it's the voice. James Earl Jones could talk all day about the galaxy's impending destruction, and I would just sit there and listen. Vader's dialogue seems to have a touch of arrogance.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Is always compelling.
Now, release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
And is just plain awesome.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
From his very first appearance, to his lightsaber duel with Luke in Empire, to the final climactic moment of his character arc in Jedi, Vader is the definitive example for a badass and compelling villain in fiction. Darth Vader is our runner-up, coolest character of all time.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did. There is no escape. Don't make me destroy you.
Here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. My choice for the coolest fictional character of all time.
I'll dump you at his feet like a rat!
Colonel!
What in the hell are you doing to my lieutenant?
The winner is none other than ambitious general officer and infamous veteran of the Ishvalan War, the flame alchemist, Colonel Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Believe me when I say it is quite the accomplishment just to be the coolest character in the Full Metal Alchemist universe, because these two separate but linked anime are built on a foundation of ultra awesome characters. From cool villains like Wrath, to compelling anti-heroes like Scar, to characters such as Riza Hawkeye and Olivier Armstrong, this universe is quite possibly the most difficult fictional world in which to win a contest of cool. However, not only does Colonel Mustang win that honor, but also takes home the Dakota Kemp Prize for coolest character of all time. And I know that is a big argument to make, but hear me out. I am a sucker for well fleshed out heroes like Roy Mustang. For one thing, I identify with him on a personal level, because his life partially mirrors my own. Many of his experiences have been my experiences, though admittedly far increased in dramatic scale. He's also got the awesome tough guy quality that many of us love, where they act unemotional and gruff and completely self-interested, but on the inside are big softies that would do absolutely anything for the people under their command. As a former Army officer myself, I saw little enough of that in my time in the military that it made individuals who lived by such a code even more precious and deserving of loyalty. Mustang embodies that. He talks all the time about his ambition and ascending the ranks, but his actions show he's more than willing to put his life and position on the line, over and over, to assure that when he does reach the pinnacle, it's with his men or not at all. Pair that with a very human vulnerability and penchant for making both goofy and human mistakes, and you've got quite possibly the perfect cool character. The mistakes make him feel real, and instead of reducing any cool factor, his often goofy missteps create an endearing quality that would otherwise have been lacking from a character built on nothing but bombastic badassery. And I mean, it's not like he doesn't get those scenes anyway. Do I really have to talk about this dude's moments of glory?
What's it like having the fluid inside of your eye spoil? You must be a glutton for punishment! You told me I couldn't kill you, but I'd like to try and prove you wrong! So let's see, how many times is it gonna take?
He's not known as the Flame Alchemist for nothing. And I dare you to find a more breathtaking character moment than Mustang versus Lust. Go on. I'll wait. That's what I thought. And that's all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed my list of the top 10 coolest characters in fiction. Hopefully, not too many of you were triggered by the inclusion of certain characters or the exclusion of one of your favorites. If you were, too bad, you've got trash taste. No, I'm kidding. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, including putting up a list of your own top 10. Lists like these are always a lot of fun because they allow us to just be excited and passionate about the things we enjoy. And next video, actually, I'm going to be covering the reason why frivolous discussions like these are far from frivolous and important to have. So if this interested you and you'd like to see more, hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified when my next video is released. Until then, I'm Dakota Kemp with the Power of Stories. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.